Welcome to the movement at Mainframe. This week features oil painter Jeff Klisares and calligrapher Tome. Mainframe Studios is a nonprofit organization located on Keogh Way in downtown Des Moines that provides permanent, affordable workspace to artists of all disciplines. This space is a 36-year-old, 5-story building that was originally a telephone company data center. Upon reopening in late 2017, Mainframe included 75 shareable studios on 3 of the 5 floors. Another floor of artists has recently finished construction, and now Mainframe is home to well over 130 artists and creative spaces, and is the largest nonprofit art studio in the nation. Mainframe Studios is demonstrating an entirely new model, ensuring that artists are not priced out of growing cities like Des Moines. They are currently fundraising to pay off the building and build the final floor.
It's exciting at Mainframe Studios right now because we were able to finish another floor, which means we have 131 studios now, which is really exciting. We're at capacity, we have a wait list growing, and we are fundraising to finish the project, which will be exciting to happen for so many reasons. To be able to fill them up with the artists waiting for space, but also will be financially self-sustaining, which is exciting. So the concept is to fundraise for owning the building and building it out, and that's why we can charge such low rents to artists. So our mural called Critical Mass was done to honor our main contributors, which are the Lordson family. They just recently pledged $1 million match. So any contributions that Mainframe Studios gets now is matched dollar for dollar up to $1 million. So anything counts. $50 or $200 or $2,000 is matched. So once we raise that money, we can complete yet another floor of Mainframe Studios and add almost 50 more studios, which we could fill tomorrow based on our wait list. We've proven our case, and it's really exciting to be able to showcase so many gifts, and people don't realize what talent is here right in front of them. And now with our mural, we're marking our territory. Art happens here in a really big way. Second floor is the final floor that needs to be renovated, and it will start renovations as soon as we have those dollars. So people ask when construction will start, and we say when the money comes in. So it's coming in small bits, but we really need the contributions to continue. You can visit mainframestudios.org and look for the donate button, and you'll have a few options there. So again, any dollar counts, and we really love our donors. It makes us connect with our community even more, the fact that we have people reaching out and really valuing the artist and valuing Mainframe Studios, which will be here for generations to come.
Let's take a short break before we look at one artist's astonishing recounts of where he was and what he witnessed on any given day. Jeff Klisares is primarily an oil painter who currently has been at work on a series of Midwestern landscapes. An Iowa native, Jeff's paintings are a form of awestruck testimony to and of the incontestable and unspeakable truth.
The first thing you probably need to know about me is I'm an outsider, which means in the art world I'm a self-taught person, no official formal art education, although I did go to university and I studied engineering and landscape architecture right at the dawn of the computer age, so we actually drew everything by hand. You know, basically things, industrial parts, you know, in the military industrial world that needed to be designed and built, and so that was a good experience for cutting my teeth in drawing. So, but I'm a Des Moines native, but I lived for years out west in my life, in Colorado and California, and I actually worked in the film industry for 5 years, and there's a lot of good experience in the one part of the art world in that industry too. So my real story is, as a young man, my grandfather was a painter. And so at a very young age, I saw an adult painting and I thought, okay, wait here. If this is the way that adults are going to behave, then, count me in, because, I think I was told more that we're going to grow up and go to work, but here I saw these adults really playing, it seemed like to me. So from that time forward, I was infatuated with paintings. I never walked by one without giving it, its due. And that's the way it's been all my life. I've traveled a lot in my work, other than painting. And the thing I've noticed in all the big cities that I worked in is paintings. Nothing really was more memorable than the buildings I was in and the paintings that I saw. So I've kind of had this idea all my life that that's what I was going to do when I grew up. On this wall is really almost chronologically my last 20 paintings, So, and they're all for sale. So, like I do, I have a little bit of a sales background too. So I'm not an artist who paints them and throws them behind me, and lets them languish in the corner. But I have a couple of farmer friends around Iowa, one in Dallas County, and one up in Sac County that I've visited this year. So a lot of these paintings are references of just standing right in their fields and looking at their crops and their farm animals, and sometimes painting plein air, standing there, and then other times taking a lot of photographs and coming back here and constructing something that's I feel is possibly hopefully beautiful and almost approaching astonishing as far as paintings go. So, you can see other works too. At the beginning of the year of 2021, I painted some still lifes, which are behind me, and they're sort of reminiscent of the losses that we kind of shared during the end of the pandemic, and I had some of my own personal ones. So they're a little bit more emotional still life paintings. And then when the weather changed, I got right back into the landscape painting. But also you'll see some portraits in here. And during COVID, before I occupied the studio on March 1st, I painted at home all 2020. And I painted a series of portraits of people that I've seen in my travels from the West Coast to the East Coast. And I call it the Portrait of the Artist series. And they're all people who you can't quite tell what sex they are or what race they are, but they all have this very noble and dignified look about them. And that's the look that I find them in our culture, and that's the likeness by which I painted them too. And my wife told me, you'll never sell those paintings, and they're unknown people. But I've sold almost all of them. There's a few remaining, but they're very successful, meaningful paintings to people. So, well, a still life is I would call it an indoor painting. You're not outdoors. It's not the landscape. It's arranging and constructing something on, say, like a table, like Cézanne's apples in a vase and a tablecloth. That's your typical, still life. In fact, I'm going to share with you my very favorite art quote was from Paul Cézanne, who said, "With an apple, I will astonish Paris." And I think that is a great. I admire that guy for coming up with that, because that's a painter. I think really does. It's not, I want to paint another ho-hum landscape, we really are trying to use oil paint to manipulate it enough to make the image that we're creating possibly more luminous than the world itself. So you can, oil paint can give you the tools by which to astonish people. So that's what I'm attempting to do, whether it's a still life or a landscape. Oil paint is my medium. I do paint in watercolor. I rarely paint in acrylics. Oil, there's so much depth in the material that you can get into on a daily basis. So much more color you can pull out of it, and chroma, and so it's very, oil paint is very fun, and a wet painting is frankly your friend. Acrylic dries like 5 minutes after you apply it on something. Oil stays wet for a day or two, so you can really do a lot with it. You can work with it. It's there for you in the morning, like, hey, still, you can work with me, I had a studio in downtown Des Moines a while ago, 20 years ago, which is now the Exile Brewing Company building. And we got ran out of there because the architects that owned it, their plan was to turn it into a big condominium project. And while I can paint at home still today, Mainframe gives me the opportunity to have a space that I can also actually have a gallery type of space in. So it's not just a working studio, this is also in a place to have receptions, events, solo shows of my own doing. My wife is a meeting and event planner, so we have a lot of fun just planning little events with small groups of people on our mailing list to come over here. So it gives us another space, a kind of a public space to show the work too. And Mainframe is a very well-kept building. It's really awesome, and it's really nice and clean. It's not so much a collaboration thing for me. I mean, a painter sort of works alone, but and I never even dreamed what it would mean or the value of being around a bunch of other artists. But really, it's been very meaningful. There's actually 7 painters down this hallway. We all paint completely differently, but yet we are finally, I feel like, wow, we're still like on a team almost, even though we don't really facilitate each other's work. It's just that we get to have that camaraderie. As far as painting goes anyway, the rest of the artists, it's just nice to be able to be around an environment and a culture where there are other people pursuing art as a full-time venture. The act of painting is a very rewarding experience in and of itself. So it's a lifestyle. It's more spiritual than what we do out in the materialistic consumer world. It's a journey one is on to be in that space where you're in the present moment. So one of my goals is just to live my life more closely to being in the present moment. And art, painting gives you that activity to, nothing happens if you're not, they say, in the zone or whatever, but when you're painting, like a lot of activities like that, playing golf, you can't think of your own problems. You have to focus too much. And in that space, you can bend time, because I can paint for 7 hours and sometimes it seems like it's 20 minutes to me. So on a personal level, that's what I want to get out of painting, is the lifestyle that it gives me back. The other thing I want to get out of painting is to paint paintings for others. And I would say that I paint for every man, but there's a certain group of people out there that are moved by the gravitas, so to speak, of owning paintings. And I want to attract those people with my paintings, so I ease their pain. So I want to do it. I'm doing it for my selfish reasons, and I'm doing it to help others. The best piece of advice I've ever been given is from my mentor, painter friend, who said, if you paint for 5 years, it'll take care of you for the rest of your life. That's very practical advice for me because it's highly relatable to me painting today. I would say another piece of advice that I've used as advice is from Shakespeare, and that is Brutus in Julius Caesar said that there's a tide in the affairs of men when taken at the flood leads on to fortune. Omitted, it is one's journey is in the shallows and in the miseries. So it's very akin to what I'm doing. It's like you get something going. I say this to every young person I meet. If you get something going, boy, you better pay attention to when your tide, the seas rise, because you got to take that flood, and then all of a sudden you're sailing and you're not rowing anymore. So that's just good quality advice for anyone, what they're doing. Just don't miss out on what you have invested in, and take it at the flood. That's what I'm doing too. My dream is, I would say, to be in some collections curated by American museums, including our own Des Moines Art Center. That might be a dream. In the meantime, I'm going to keep doing my best to paint for my patrons.
To see more of Jeff Klisares' work, visit these social media sites. Next, we look at the art of modern and traditional calligraphy. Ink and Oak Calligraphy was founded by Tome, where she creates modern and traditional calligraphy for a variety of occasions. She also offers workshops in small settings at Mainframe and a specialized selection of calligraphy supplies.
So Ink and Oak refers to just pen and paper, but it's also a nod to the Iowa state tree is the bur oak, and I love trees, and my Iowa roots too. I started at the University of Iowa. My major was actually journalism. But I needed an area of concentration, and I chose art. So among other classes, I took a calligraphy class and just really fell in love with it, and I took a few more there. Through the UI has the Center for the Book program, which is really a treasure for Iowa, and I kept up with it that way. Most of my work is by commission, and most of it is wedding work and event work. I do a lot of envelope addressing, place cards, signs for weddings, but I say that I do a little bit of everything because I also do, I think in the last month I've done a poem commission, a husband to a wife, wedding vows. I've lettered on ornaments for people. So just a little bit of everything. I'm doing a lot of event calligraphy right now for the holidays. So actually a whiskey company has hired me to go out and do calligraphy on labels, and that's keeping me busy right now. So a lot of what I do is pointed pen calligraphy. Calligraphy, it covers a lot of scripts and a lot of cultures. What I do primarily is pointed pen, and my specialty is copperplate. And so copperplate dates back to about the 17th century. It's in Europe, and it literally dates back to when scribes would give their work to engravers who would transfer it onto copper plates. But now I use this tool, my oblique pen, with a pointed pen nib, and that is the tool that I usually use for most of my wedding work and commission work. But there's also brush calligraphy, broad-edged pen. There's just a lot of different styles. But for me, it's usually just a pen and some ink or gouache and the paper. So since every envelope is hand done, and I tend to be a slow worker, I just move slowly. It takes me maybe 5 minutes for each envelope, really. So if I have 100 envelopes, that's 500 minutes of work, and I enjoy it. It's kind of zen, you get in a groove, and if you like the script, that helps too. So it takes time, but it's worth it. When I think about it, I've been on the waiting list for Mainframe for probably a couple of years. I remember hearing about the studio space and just like the idea of a collaborative space where a lot of artists were together. The building is beautiful. So when they opened the 3rd floor, I moved in. That was in March. And literally every day I walk in, I'm happy to be here and just thankful for the space and for the other artists. It's always inspiring to be around all the other types of art and the other people. It's, beautiful light, beautiful space. My next door neighbor is a graphic designer, so once when I had to digitize some of my calligraphy, I went to Chad next door, and he was able to help me with that, and that kind of collaboration is really priceless for an artist. I am an instructor at the Des Moines Art Center, but then I also offer workshops here, and I usually try to offer them about once a month. I teach pointed pen calligraphy in my workshops. Most of them are beginner workshops, and they usually run about 3 hours, and all supplies are included, and they're just a good introduction for people to get started. From what I hear and from what my kids tell me, cursive is not taught much, and it's kind of up to the teacher. So if the teacher finds time, they'll squeeze it in. That could mean, a couple weeks of cursive, or it could mean more or less. Just depends on the teacher. I know my grandmother, my mom, and actually my dad too, all had really beautiful, unique styles of handwriting, and it is a lost art. I love snail mail, letters in the mail. I think getting a letter handwritten from someone is so personal and so special, and it doesn't happen as much anymore. Some kids can't even read cursive anymore. So yeah, I think that handwriting scripts give a personal element to it. I think your personality kind of comes through when you're writing. That doesn't happen if you're typing or even printing as much. I am right-handed. There are lots of great left-handed calligraphers, and it shouldn't stop anyone from doing calligraphy, but it does take adjustment, and you kind of have to find what works for you if you're a lefty. When I do a piece, if it's wedding work or signs, it tends to be just lettering, but a lot of times when someone wants a commission, they also want an illustrative element to it. So I've incorporated watercolor into my calligraphy, probably watercolor more than anything else. And I'm mostly self-trained for my watercolor, but it's just kind of adding something more special, more unique to the piece beyond just the lettering. I think my journey in calligraphy, I give a lot of credit to my mentors at Iowa. Cheryl Jacobson was my instructor there, and she's wonderful at what she does. She has a passion for calligraphy that she passes on. So Cheryl really got me interested, and then since I've been in Des Moines, I remember a friend telling me about a lettering meeting, and it was facilitated by Jean Wilson, and so I went to the meeting, and Jean, ever since then, she's offered me help on her jobs that she's done, and she's gotten me started that way. She's offered me advice. She taught at the Art Center before I did and kind of got me involved in the Art Center there. So just having those other people, those other calligraphers pass down their love for it and enthusiasm and kind of their tips kind of keeps it going. I guess if I went to a museum and was looking at other artists, I'm drawn to people like Kandinsky or Moreau. I like more abstract art. When I think of calligraphers that influence me, I really love the work of John Stevens. He started out as a sign painter and then moved into more just calligraphy with a pen. But John does amazing work for many different styles. Broad edge pen, does graphic work for companies, but just has a wide range of work, and I admire that, what he's able to do and how exact and and beautiful. He makes every single letter. I also like Yves Leterme is another calligrapher. I've taken workshops with both of them, and Yves is a calligrapher in Belgium, and he has a very expressive style that I think is influenced by being, he lives in Bruges, Belgium, which is sort of a mecca for calligraphy. His background is in Latin, and he has just more like broad, expressive, abstract work. So I like both of that, the more exacting calligraphy and then the more expressive, kind of explosive calligraphy, I guess. I don't know if I have a dream project. I enjoy doing the fine art side of calligraphy and experimenting and using different tools and kind of exploring my own style. So as much as I love the commission work and I don't want to ever stop doing weddings, I would like to take more time to create my own work and just, what I want to do rather than a commission for someone else.
To see more of Tome Hope's work, visit these social media sites. Thanks for watching this episode of Movement at Mainframe on MC22. In the following weeks, we'll be featuring more Des Moines artists and their unique talent. For more information on the artists and to contribute to construction on the final floor, visit mainframestudios.org.